Samarth Bhaskar, 29, Senior Editor for Digital Transition at the New York Times. I think the one word that sums me up best is actually my name, and in Hindi it means person capable of all. I used to think that was a really daunting thing when I was younger, but now I've kind of taken ownership of it, and I just plan to do whatever I can in my life and try to be successful at it. I used to spend hours at the Borders bookstore in my hometown reading Foreign Policy magazine, Foreign Affairs magazine, different journals and books. On my block, there's a Nigerian mosque and a church. Not too far from me is a YMCA. There are families all around that I see walking and hanging out in the neighborhood, and it makes me really excited to build a world where there's lots of diverse families and people from all sorts of backgrounds living together. I help journalists at the New York Times transition from being newspaper journalists to being digital media journalists. I help them think about audiences who read their work online versus audiences that have read them in newspapers for a long time, and how they have to write differently, how they have to think about their audiences differently, and how we reach new audiences so that we can continue being a great news organization. Print audiences tend to be, I would say, older, more affluent, and less diverse. We have to find ways to reach new audiences who are no longer reading news in print anymore, either because they can't afford it, or they didn't grow up with it, or they find online reading easier, or because they're spending a lot of time on social media platforms. Our job is to tell the news to everyone, and so we have to go where everyone is. My parents inspire me. They, in their mid-30s, decided all of a sudden to take two kids, 10 and 5 years old, and move from New Delhi, India, to Normal, Illinois. They didn't know anyone, they didn't know anything about the country, and over the course of the last 20 years have made it a really successful life for our family, and I think that's a really inspirational thing to consider. The most rewarding thing about my work is seeing the role that it plays in our country's conversation about democracy, and knowing that I can play a role in making it even a healthier and even a more successful part of our national conversation is really rewarding to me. So 20 years ago, I had no idea I would be American. 10 years ago, I had no idea I would live in Brooklyn. 5 years ago, I had no idea I'd be an editor at the New York Times. So I have no idea where I'll be 30 years from now. There you go. It's the New York Times. It's a print paper from today. It has a picture of a Democrat winning a Senate race in Alabama, which was on people's minds this week. This paper will be completely useless in about 24 hours, but for today, it is the most important news of the day.